All right, I think we are live here. Sorry, I'm starting it a minute late, but thank you all so much for joining. I see there's already some people here hanging out, and hope you guys are all having a good weekend so far. Hopefully, you can hear me okay with the mic and all that. And yeah, just hope you're having a good month here so far. It's got a lot of exciting stuff coming up this month, and I'm very excited to be driving the GR Corolla this month. The new Lexus RX, and got a bunch of stuff lined up for an exciting month of content here for August as well. Although those Toyota ones and the Lexus ones will be early September, but I'm excited to share all that with you guys. It's going to be a fun fall too. I'm looking forward to the fall. Lots of exciting stuff, I think. But anyway, so as far as the live stream goes here, like all the other ones, I'm going to go for about 2 hours. I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. But anyone who does do a super chat or is a member and has a little SWF or Maran logos there next to their membership name, they will get priority answering. But otherwise, I always try to answer as many questions as I can here. And so, yeah, we'll get right into it. I see we have some people already saying hello. Hope everyone's doing well. Sean is the first member here to join. Says good morning, everyone. So yeah, depending on where you're at, morning, afternoon, whatever. But hopefully this new time kind of works a little bit better for some people, because I know a lot of people have stuff going on later in the day. Just on the weekend, you want to get out and have fun, especially here in the summer. So, but I really appreciate all of you guys for joining. So, we see first question here. Fastline is asking, does the 2022 Ford Bronco two-door come with a soft top? I believe you can still get the soft top or the hard top as options. I think the soft top certainly comes faster because they're still having issues with building Broncos, I think. And so the hard tops are taking the longest. So I think soft top's definitely the way to go if you want one in a reasonable amount of time. Jazzbo says applause for Matt. Welcome. Thanks for joining, Jazz. I appreciate all the comments and the videos and everything as well. Carlos, another member here. Thanks for joining as well, Carlos. I'm doing well. Hopefully you guys are doing well too. And yeah, just enjoying the Maki. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that reveal video last weekend. And I'm also here if there's any other follow-up questions you have on the Maki that I haven't responded to or had a chance to see. Definitely let me know, and I'd be more than happy to talk about that here in real time. But first, super chat here from Luke O1234. Thank you so much, Luke, for the super chat. He says, I wrote into Toyota corporate and said they should do a Ford Maverick competitor and call it the Toyota RAV400 and use the 2.4 turbo from the Lexus NX. That would be fun for sure. I think, Toyota, if you watched the One Weekly Update a little while back, Toyota is considering doing some type of Maverick kind of competitor. And, I think they were just trying to evaluate, how to do it exactly as far as, do they do something that's larger but unibody? They do something smaller, it's unibody, or something body on frame that's really small and kind of differentiate themselves from everyone else in the market that's doing unibody stuff on the small thing. And so, yeah, but putting the 2.4 from the Lexus would make it a very strong competitor, and also give it a lot more power too than a lot of the others out there. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. Probably going to be a couple of years off, but it'll be very exciting to see how they decide to do that. But Sean has been a member for 2 months here. He says, looking forward to my membership perks. I believe it means I can use your bathroom anytime I'm in the area. Hey, I'm always open here to helping out members any way I can. So yeah, but if you're in the area ever, Sean, definitely send a message, something like that. We could try and meet up for a beer or something. Be good to hang out. But thanks for being a member. I really, really appreciate it. And we have Ray Gomez says Huracan or Aventador. Depends on what whether you like the V10 sound or the V12 sound better. I personally like the Huracan's V10 better than the Aventador's V12 as far as sound goes. I think the Aventador V12 never sounded as good as the Murcielago, in my opinion. I was always kind of a little bummed by the way that V12 sounded. It sounds better in the newer versions and the more aggressive, SVJ versions and stuff. Definitely sound better. I still think Ferrari does a much better sounding V12. So I would say Huracan probably just for the engine sound alone, but the Aventadors are awesome too. Newt, thanks for joining. I appreciate you joining, Zach. He says good afternoon. He's going to be helping moderate here. I very much appreciate it. Hopefully you're doing well too, Zach. And so other questions here. Hugo says, do you think the Maverick should be sold in the U.S.? Well, I mean, it is, and I think it's great. They're selling super hot, so I think that totally, is a home run for Ford and a great idea. I think too, something that was, a neglected segment here for a while. I'm glad, there's more affordable, smaller trucks coming in. Jared's asking best first fun car that would be my only car for an enthusiast. So I guess that will be limited by what exactly you need the car to do. Do you haul large things? Do you carry a bunch of people all the time? Do you need all-wheel drive depending on where you live, or are you okay with front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive? I think the one car that kind of is a really good jack of all trades car, in my opinion, is still the Honda Civics, the SI from like anything from 2006 to 2014, that whole generation. They were really, really fun. They had still the great naturally aspirated engine, the super high red line, very reliable, also very easy to drive, very easy manual, but it's a super good manual, but super light clutch, very easy to learn manual on that car. But it also has a nice usable back seat, nice and comfortable. So for a daily driver, it's not beating you up all day. I just think that was kind of the perfect Civic Si in many ways. The new ones are awesome too with the new motor and stuff, but I just think that old one is really good, and it's also a nice affordable car, and they run forever, so it shouldn't beat you up on maintenance or anything like that. So that would be probably always my go-to first recommendation. It's also nice and easy to handle since it's front-wheel drive. But there's also like Miatas and things like that if you're a little more flexible with your needs. If you need all-wheel drive, WRXs are great, but especially for a first driver, the insurance rates are going to be crazy. All-wheel drive stuff, you're limited a little bit more, but there's still some other really cool options. Like there's like Mazda Speed 6 if you can hunt one of those down. I love my Legacy GT Spec B. That's even the regular Legacy GTs are a great way to kind of get the WRX fun without the WRX insurance rates. So if you can hunt one of those down with a manual, that's also, I love that. That was the first car that I actually bought, and loved that thing. Still miss it a bunch, but just a few off the top of my head. But if you are curious about more recommendations and you want to give me more of the context of your situation, definitely send a message on Facebook, and I'd be more than happy to kind of talk you through it and try and go through some more options with you. Automotive Antics is here. Thanks for joining. He says, thoughts on the Forte GT? I always thought the Forte GT was a really solid little value. I thought it was really good from a performance standpoint for what you're getting for the money and stuff. I just thought it was really well done, and I did a full review on it a few years back if you're curious about more thoughts. Carlos also says, I managed to hopefully get an allocation for a GR Corolla for only $700 over MSRP. Super excited to get back into hot hatch after my Speed 3. Wow. Well, congrats. That's really exciting. And in this world where, especially for a car like that, not getting it for a markup, only $700 is very impressive. So I think that'll be well worth. That's a very small markup. So, that's totally worth it. And that's going to be sweet. So I guess you'll be very excited to hear about the reviews here in September. I'm very, very excited to drive that. And I really hope that they start increasing the amount of production. They'll do that, after the first year, hopefully, especially with supply chains, ideally, hopefully getting better towards the end of 2023 is what I've heard, at least for Toyota, that hopefully they'll start ramping up production of those, down the road. But congrats, though. That's super awesome. That's very, very exciting. Tu Chang, thank you so much for joining as well. Here he says, hello, I'm here to roast. I'm always here for your hilarious comments, so I'm excited for it. Thanks for joining. Sean also says, answering Jared, Miata if you don't need utility, Golf, Rabbit, GTI if you do. Yeah, GTI is a great choice. They're still hit or miss for me, because a lot of people joke about GTIs having constant check engine lights and just random electronic glitches. So if you're okay with putting up with a few little odd glitches here and there, then GTI is also fantastic for sure. Brian Monroe, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, good afternoon, Matt. Do you see S650 in your future? Probably not. I kind of touched on this a little bit whenever I saw the leaked images, and I did a whole video on that in the bullet. Just based on the interior, the interior we already have seen pretty clearly, and it just doesn't look like a Mustang to me. It looks like they took the interior out of like a Chevy Silverado, and just plopped it in there. It's got, the screen that's kind of turned a little bit towards the driver, like the Corvette's a little bit. And, it looks nice, but like, I want the round air vents from like the retro cues from the past Mustangs. I like the retro things. We'll see if the styling really wows me, and maybe if they do a bullet version, you know, I just don't know if I can overlook that interior because I love the interior in my current Bullet. I think it's the perfect combination. I have the digital gauges, I have Apple CarPlay, all the modern stuff that I want and need, and nothing extra or nothing bland. It's just still very distinctive Mustang. So we'll see. I'm hoping that the spy pictures were a little misleading or something. We'll see. But yeah, I probably am not going to go for the S650, but we'll see. I always keep an open mind about everything, but I'm pretty sure my Bullet is a keeper, and I don't know what they would have to do to really change my mind on that, unless they just completely just did a complete interior overhaul from whatever we saw in the spy pictures. But aside from that, I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with mine. So also Justin is commenting here. He says, "Hey Matt, what is your fave compact hatchback? I've always been a Honda guy, but I'm sort of leaning towards a Mazda 3 hatch for the all-wheel drive for Ohio winter. Love the new Civics though." So yeah, if you want all-wheel drive, the Mazda 3 would definitely, I think, be my pick. The Honda stuff is great. It just depends on, again, how much you have to drive in bad Ohio winters, how bad it is exactly. Because I don't know, I'm not in your shoes there, but if you do love the Civics and you're a Honda guy, putting snow tires on a Civic, especially if you do, an SI, I know you're mentioning hatches. So in that case, if you want a limited slip diff, you're going to have to either go after market with the sport hatch or, wait for the Type R. So I mean, if you have that kind of flexibility budget wise to wait for a Type R, maybe that could be something worth waiting for, and put snows on that, and then you might be able to get around okay. But really, the Mazda 3 is such a good value, and it's especially with how everything's getting more expensive. I talked about this in my Integra, review. I guess that's another way if you want to go for a hatch and you're okay with going up to the Acura brand, you can go for an Integra. But in my Integra review, I was like, for the same money, you can get a Mazda 3 all-wheel drive turbo hatch, which is a little bit smaller inside, but it's totally livable still. And you get one of those, super nicely fully loaded for 35 grand, and come in under the Integra. So I think, Mazda 3, especially if you want a manual and you're okay with, front wheel drive thing, the Mazda 3 hatch could definitely be the way to go. And Daniel, thank you so much for being a member and for joining here. He says, "Congrats on the new car. I gave Maki a serious look, but ultimately went with a Model 3, and I'm loving it. I visited some friends this weekend and convinced them to unplug their clothes dryer for me." Nice. Oh, that's great. Hopefully, I guess their clothes dryer was close to the driveway, because like in my house, I mean, I don't need the 240, but the clothes dryer is like on the other side of the basement there, so I would not be able to run a cable from that out to the garage. So just do the slow charging for me, and it's totally fine though. It's like even just yesterday we drove maybe like 25 or 30 miles. I plugged it in when we got home, and it was fully charged again by like 2 a.m. because I only charged it to 90%, for the battery health. So it's very easy to keep it topped off with our driving, and then it sits for 2 or 3 days at some point. So even if I do fall a little bit behind and I'm driving a bunch, then it sits for a few days, it can top itself back off. And I don't have to worry about peak charging either, because my utility provider doesn't really provide any kind of discounts for off-peak charging. So I just plug it in whenever, and I don't have to worry about sticking to a certain schedule or anything like that either. But congrats on your Model 3 as well. I'm glad you're loving it. They're super great cars too. It's just for us, I liked having the gauges and the Apple CarPlay and stuff, but Model 3s are still very, very impressive. So congrats on that. And Kyle, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, "Hey Matt, for your next personal vehicle, will you get an EV or stick to gas engines? Maybe a next generation Mustang?" Honestly, I'm just going to probably stick to the Bullet. I think the Bullet's going to be a keeper for life. And so, I mean, if the money situation improves and I'm able to add on a third garage, because right now we only have a 2-car garage anyway. So I'm pretty sure it'll just be the Bullet, and whatever car Beth's driving is going to be that'll be the only new purchase every few years, for the family vehicle. But if I were to get a new vehicle in the future, I mean, I'm open to both sides. If there's something really awesome that's electric that I could see myself adding as a third car. I don't think there's anything gas or electric I'd ever want to replace the Bullet with. So it would just be adding stuff on. But next personal vehicle, it just totally come down to budget as far as, what I'm able to do, and when and if that ever happens, we'll see. The channel isn't growing like it used to, so I may just stick to current financial obligations and not add anything else on. But yeah, probably not going to go for the next gen Mustang. Like someone else just asked a few minutes ago, it's the interior on it seems super generic, so I'm not too excited about it personally. I'm always excited for a new Mustang, but I don't have any plans to probably get it unless there's some big surprise or shocker that makes me must have it. But probably just going to stick to the Bullet for the rest of my life. So Tu Cheng says jokes about Matt buying a Power Wheels. Yeah, you were saying that, and then I essentially bought a giant Power Wheels. You're right, with the Maki. So but it's fun, just like the Power Wheels instant zip. I'm so excited to get our daughter a Power Wheels here once she's a little bit older and can steer without driving off the road. Yep, but I totally bought a Power Wheels essentially. That could be a fun like vanity plate or something. I'm sure someone's already thought of that, but just having a vanity plate that says Power Wheels on it, or even just having the sticker on the back window would be funny. David, thank you also for joining here and being a member. He says, I love my BRZ, but it isn't the road trip car I hoped. Any thoughts about an alternative that my wife would be comfortable in, but I'd also like that I drive on long road trips? My wife is 5'1", and your comment cut off there. It said in TH, but so I think you said you have the new BRZ. I'm pretty sure. So if you want something that's a better road trip vehicle, I mean, not to be biased, but that's what I love about my Mustang is, it just depends on how much you want that sharp handling, because the BRZ is a way better handler. And if you're in a spirited manner, I think the BRZ is way more fun to drive, but the Bullet is fantastic. If you're okay with, a comfortable cruiser that also does handle pretty well. Even if you want to go for like a performance pack level 2 or, a Mach 1 that has, the track pack or whatever on it to give you a sportier setup. I think that's the great thing about the muscle cars and why they sell more than BRZs do and Supras and stuff like that, because it's comfortable. And, that softer suspension and the extra space and stuff, sitting up a little bit higher, all those things just, make it a nicer highway cruiser. And so, but that doesn't have to be the Mustang. You could also, Camaros are just as good. Challengers are just as great, So, I mean, any of those three, I think if you want the best handling one, go for a Camaro. And you could also probably get a killer deal on a Camaro right now too, because no one else is buying them, sadly. So I would look at the muscle cars if you're open to those. Otherwise, I don't know, again, what your budget is, but I would also consider the Supra is better. It's not as good as the muscle cars are comfort-wise, but the Supra is a little bit more comfortable and refined than the BRZ and the 86. So that could be another, potential. Otherwise, I'm trying to think of other stuff around BRZ price point that would be better for you. But really, I think the muscle cars are going to be the best, suggestion I can probably give. But again, feel free to send a message if, you'd like to offer a little more context, and we can totally, talk through it. I'm always happy to help people find a car they're going to love, because that's why I do this channel, is to help you guys find something you're going to love and you're going to love, driving every day. That's why I do what I do. And that's what really, drives me to do these videos as best as I can. Vayancy, thank you for joining and for being a member as well. He says, I find it weird that SUVs are sales kings, but much of the new EVs coming out at first were sedans. And of course, not having a usable 3-row SUV on the market yet is surprising. Yeah, it is surprising for sure. And I think, I'm not sure why they went with sedans first. I think that maybe they were appealing to an enthusiast buyer. At least Tesla was, back early on. They wanted to, compete with people that weren't family people really as much. Just people that, were okay with something smaller, didn't need something huge. I think also, it was a different time, honestly. Like this SUV phenomenon, like, yes, obviously it's been building ever since the 90s, but, it wasn't really until 5 or so years ago where it's like everyone had to have a crossover and everything, there was a million crossovers on the market. Before that, you had pretty slim pickings as far as compact and subcompact crossovers especially go. And, 3-row stuff, you had a few, but a lot of them were truck based. It's really been a fast evolution of the SUV here in the past, 5 or 10 years. But I think, car companies now are seeing, okay, we've proven our concept with the funky, small or weird stuff. And now they're like, okay, we're going up to the mass market stuff. like you're seeing with, stuff like the Maki and stuff, but also, like Kia, I think the EV9 is what they're going to be calling their like electric Telluride, essentially, that's coming, I believe, next year. Hyundai's going to have a version 2, and there's going to be a lot of others coming quickly, I think, now that they know that that's the next frontier that they haven't conquered yet is the 3-row stuff. I think that's, definitely going to be the way they're going to go in the future here. But Kyle, thank you so much for another question here. He says, Matt should get the 2024 Camaro Farewell Edition if that actually goes into production. Yeah, 2024 Camaro would be cool. I mean, it just, I love the Bullet. I'm biased partially because, like I said, the Camaro handles better, but nothing will ever beat the Bullet in my mind as far as a one car that fits exactly what I need and want in my life. It's just that Bullet's always going to have a place in the garage as long as I can control it, unless, I go broke or something. But other than that, I'm going to keep the thing forever. So we have Two Chang says, Matt commenting on the S650 generic interior. I mean, that matches your lifestyle. Thanks for the roast. Yeah, keeping it nice and generic. David also says, thanks for the answer, Matt. I'll research the Mustang Turbo. Also thought about a Kona N. Kona N would be, yeah, if you're open to something like that, yeah. I didn't think of the more practical stuff, but yeah, if you're into, yeah, or even a Elantra N, I still think Elantra N's a lot better than Kona N. Again, don't know, what you're looking for in particular. Kona N just doesn't handle as well as I had hoped it would, because they didn't want to lower them. I was sitting in the briefing whenever I was hearing about, the chief engineer saying how like they were expecting to lower it, but then he's like, no, like keep it high. People want it to be an SUV. We have the Veloster and the Elantra for people who, want something low. And so, yeah, but Kona N still is fun especially if you're just mostly focused on straight line fun. But, it's also not, I mean, it's comfortable. It's going to be a little more comfortable than the BRZ, but not a ton, which is, again, why I think the muscle cars kind of, are a little bit softer in their setup. And, yeah, Mustang Turbo would be great. I think that also would, really fit, because, I mean, that's what I did. I went from a BRZ, had the brief 6 months with the Mini, but then went into the, Mustang EcoBoost, and it really, is larger. It's a huge change as far as sizing goes. You're going to feel like you're in an enormous, boat after getting out of the BRZ. But once you get used to the dimensions, the Mustang Turbo, I think, is a really great, option. So, yeah. But Kona N's fun too, for sure. And Tear Blood, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, hey, Matt, just wanted to say, love the videos and wanted to show some support. Well, I very much appreciate that. Thanks for joining and thanks for supporting the channel. As always, it's, the channel wouldn't be here without you guys watching. It's that simple. If everyone quit watching, I couldn't do this anymore. So I very much appreciate it. And so thank you so much for the support. Hugo's asking about a Ram Dakota. So I think as far as my most recent stuff that I've read, any kind of Dakota, there's like spot shots every once in a while of like some hacked up Ram running around, like, Ram 1500, but then like there's nothing coming. So, I don't know. That's kind of a tricky thing, because especially timing wise now, they're in this weird in between of like, what do we do? Do we just make it electric and beat everyone to the punch as far as mid-size electric stuff goes? But they'll have to move fast, because, I mean, we know a Ranger Lightning or whatever is most likely coming. Even a Maverick Lightning was trademarked by Ford recently. And then if they want to go the other way and just say, hey, let's just do it gas, then it's like, all right, but you got, I don't know how long that would last, depending on how things change. Obviously, there'll be people that'll buy gas stuff forever, but when you're trying to maximize sales and you're trying to get a vehicle approved for production, you want to have the most appeal possible, and trying to appeal to as many people as possible means, making sure that you aren't excluding powertrains and stuff as much as possible. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. And maybe that just isn't worth doing for them as well. We'll have to see, but I mean, there's been rumors about, oh, it's coming in 2020, it's coming in 2018, and they never show up. So, I mean, it's an obvious glaring omission in the lineup that would be an easy money printer for them. So I don't know why it's been held up, honestly, because it sounds like something they should have done 10 years ago, and they haven't, so I don't know, but we'll see what they end up doing. Marco says, any updates on press day for new Z06 or a review? I don't know anything personally. I'm not always in the loop on. I don't get invited on every single press vehicle, press trip. Even from GM especially, it's very hit or miss. I think they try and invite me on the ones that they think will resonate best with you guys. Because I do turn down a lot of press trips because I'm just like, this isn't worth flying across the country for because it's going to get 5,000 views on YouTube. So I don't bother with some of them. And so I think that sends mixed signals to some car companies because they don't say yes to everything, especially now with the baby. I prefer being at home unless I know it's going to be something that you guys definitely want to see, or at least a good amount of you want to see. But yeah, Z06, 100%. I would fly anywhere in the world to drive that vehicle. So I don't know if I'm going to get an invite. Might be worth asking some other YouTubers and see, if they have any info on that for you. But as of right now, I don't have any info, so can't help you out there, unfortunately. Tu Chang says, Super owners, I bought a new Super, everyone in the know, nice Z4, bro. Super owner, shocked Pikachu face. I'm all like for the Super. I've always loved the Super. I think it's great. I'm just happy it exists. So I know you're just joking, but it's I think the Super is kind of standing on its own, especially if Super gets the manual and the Z4 doesn't. That would be a nice differentiator. But it sounds like Z4 might get the manual as well here soon. So we'll see what happens with that. But I love the Supras. Justin says, do you plan on going to any international auto shows the rest of this year or next year? So once I heard that the new Mustang was being debuted at Detroit here next month, Detroit's only like a 4.5 hour drive for me. And, I don't know. Ford also almost never invites me to anything. So I'm not banking on being able to see any kind of private reveal. I'm sure they will probably, for all the biggest outlets, they'll probably have some type of exclusive thing in a studio that will be dropping right at the embargo or something. I probably won't get invited to something like that. We'll see. I'd love to be surprised. But I may go to the Detroit Auto Show just to provide in-person coverage on that vehicle because it's a big enough deal. I know that a lot of you are Mustang fans as well. It could be something. And I'm also just personally curious to maybe see the reveal in person. So that's a possibility. But I believe timing wise, it's kind of close with a trip that I'm doing. So I don't know. As far as the rest of this year and into next year, typically I've written off auto shows personally because less and less car companies are going to them, for one, and two, it's just way too hard to compete at auto shows. Being a one-man crew here, having to film everything and then race back to my laptop and try and upload it whenever all the other people covering are just like staying in front of the car, filming, handing the SD card off to their editor who goes and feverishly works on it. And they have, multiple people working on stuff for them. It makes it a lot less stressful when you're doing that. For me, it's me running around with a chicken with my head cut off, like desperately trying to hurry up and film stuff and upload stuff. And then I have 8 videos flooding everyone's sub feed. And for other channels that works. There's a lot of other YouTube channels that get huge views on their auto show stuff. And my auto show stuff typically has always done pretty crappy, honestly. So, it doesn't do great. Plus, it's super stressful and not enjoyable to even cover, honestly. And so, for all those reasons, it doesn't make sense. If a car company brings me to an auto show, that's why I did New York back in, I think, 2019 that was actually part of a Honda trip that they invited me on for the Refresh Civic back then. And, I was like, okay, cool. Well, I get to actually do a car review that I think will do decently well views wise. And I get to cover the auto show as a bonus. So with that, I gave it my best and did that then. But and unless someone else pays for me to be there, because also with the videos not doing well, I end up losing money because I got to go to a city, pay for hotel, pay to get into the auto show and all that kind of stuff. And then the videos get 5,000 views and then I end up losing money while also working like crazy. And it's a bad combo all around. So for all those reasons, probably no auto shows unless a car company brings me and covers all the costs, or unless it's something I can drive to and it's pretty cheap, like Detroit. Detroit, thankfully, the hotels are nice and cheap and it's a short drive. So Detroit potentially, going forward here. But that's probably going to be the only one unless, again, someone else pays for it. So, but thank you for the question. So he said, well, just know we do appreciate your auto show coverage when you do it. I appreciate that, Justin. I know that certainly, you and many others do, but, just from a numbers standpoint, it just seems like it goes unappreciated. So that's why I've also kind of given up on it. And Omar says, I say do the auto show to put the Maki on a road trip and do a review on that as well as the show. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think though we are doing a little bit of a beach trip here in September, a little family road trip, and so with that, I'm considering vlogging some of that. I don't really like vlogging, honestly. I just like just enjoying a trip. But it could be eye-opening, especially if it turns out to not go as smoothly as I was hoping it would. So I don't know. I'm still undecided about that. Let me know what you guys would like to see. If you'd like to see a road trip vlog, some things I could certainly consider doing at least once just to see, what it's like and show you guys what it's like. Just the realities. Because I think even though there's so much EV content out there, I run into so many questions from people that there are things that I guess some of us who watch a lot of YouTube and are really in the know about car stuff, it's like duh. But a lot of people, there's still so many things that they're like, wow, like, and people that are car people that are like, oh, like it only takes you about 25 minutes for each charging stop for the Mach-E. Like that's better than I was expecting. And there's a lot of things that a lot of people still don't realize that it's not as terrible as some of the headlines might suggest sometimes. So I think I do want to shed a little bit of light on, what it's like to have an EV, even though, again, that's probably been beaten to death a million times. But it still seems like there's still some gaps there as far as everyone's knowledge on the subject. So I'd like to try and, help educate a little bit, possibly. But, I'm still up in the air. But Justin says road trip vlog would be cool. So, yeah, we'll maybe go for that. Then we'll have to see. And if I do, I'll probably do it a little less formal. It'll probably be something kind of a little less polished and just maybe film it on my iPhone or something like that and do a little bit more of a relatable thing. Because I know, it's something I've never really gotten too personal with, vlogging my life or anything like that. But maybe it would be fun to, do a little bit of that and just test the waters there and see, how it does. But Miguel, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, thinking of getting a car as an investment, something like a Type R, MSRP of high 30s and reselling for mid to high 40s. Any other recommendations? I guess it depends on, exactly where your budget is. As far as obviously, depending on your budget, that will open up more investment opportunities car wise and also in general, So, if you're thinking stuff around that price point, obviously there's a cottage industry here of flippers. So, if you're, I don't know how long you're planning to hold for, but, stuff like the GR Corolla is another great investment. Corvette C06, basically anything that's in high demand right now is at least short term a good flipping investment. Although I don't, really suggest driving up those prices because that's also what the dealers do. And then everything just gets too expensive for anyone to actually enjoy it. But I think that there's also a lot of stuff, that's the older stuff that I think is a really good investment. So I know a lot of people are even already pre-purchasing R34 Skylines before they become legal here. And I think 2024, I could be wrong on the math and everything, but there's the 25-year rule. And so just like how when the R32s, first became legal and they were like flooding the markets here in the States, and, they originally went for very high money and then eventually they got, enough of them in here that they started dropping in pricing a little bit. But, maybe try and see if you can work out a deal over in Japan on, pre-buying some R34 or something like that would be a great investment. Because everyone's going to want an R34 here in the States once they're actually able to register them legally. So, that's an option. Obviously, all the stuff that's also being sold out in 5 minutes, all these, electric vehicles that are coming out with all these pre-orders, pre-order a Silverado EV, pre-order, a Celestiq, a Lyriq, whatever, all these things. Again, a lot of those are really high and you have to take delivery and, get either the cash or the financing for, $100,000 super truck. But obviously you can flip it for much more if you can actually take delivery of it. So, any of these things that they say, reservations are open now. If you're one of the first people to put in a reservation, one of the first people to get one of those things, even like a Rivian or something like that, you could flip back whenever those, were not out yet. Anything like that is going to be, really hot. But that could even go for like more affordable stuff like the Blazer. That's already been, I think, sold out with the reservations. But, like the Equinox electric thing, even that's nothing glamorous, but the ordering isn't open for those yet. Once it is, there's still going to be someone who's like, hey, I want to be one of the first people to have an Equinox EV. You take delivery of it for 30, 40 grand, whatever, and flip it, for 5 or 10. more, whatever the case might be. I think there's all this just a massive opportunity there just to be someone who just squats and just places pre-orders for every single new hot thing, takes delivery and sells it. So anyway, but thank you so much for the super chat, and definitely a very interesting thing. But I also kind of am cautious about how long that's going to last with some of this stuff. I think demand is eventually going to come down, and supply will catch up with it someday. And obviously the hot new stuff will always still be hot and new, but there's going to be only so many people that can afford $100,000 trucks before they're like, okay, we all have our $100,000 trucks. There's none of us left to buy them anymore. I don't know. We'll see when that happens, but sooner or later, there's going to be saturation, I think. Daniel is asking, I have a reservation for a Cybertruck. Would you be interested in reviewing it when I take delivery in 2027? Yeah, that's probably an accurate estimate. I would love to review it for sure, because obviously Tesla doesn't really even do press vehicles, and they certainly don't talk to me if they do. So I would love to review your Cybertruck whenever you get it in. Definitely send me a message if that ever becomes reality, and we can totally set something up. Tu Chang says, Car Tech 8 just finished. What's your, Car Trek 8 just finished. What's your favorite car from that series? I haven't watched it. I've never watched any of them. I don't have time to really watch any YouTube for the most part. If I'm lucky, I can, watch one or two reviews here and there. But I really don't watch very much stuff. I have so little time that the videos I do watch are like 5-10 minutes tops usually, so I don't have any time to watch anything super long. But yeah, I'm sure it must be very popular and very, very fun to watch. I just have not had a chance to, unfortunately. Carlos is asking, when is the embargo for the GR Corolla? I don't remember the exact date, and I also sometimes manufacturers are a little weird with us revealing the embargo date too early. So I don't want to say publicly, but maybe if you send me a message, I can look at it and see. You keep it to yourself, but I can just say it's sometime in the early to mid September range, I remember. And I will, since you're a member too, I'll be posting my upload schedule on there of the car reviews coming in September here pretty soon, and it'll be on there as well. And so you'll see that here soon, but sometime in the middle of September. And if someone else has already said the official date, another YouTuber or something, then I can say it as well, so that I'm not the one that gets in trouble for it. But usually it's not that big of a deal, but I just want to play it a little bit safe. That's okay. And Velocity is asking, are you going to do monthly updates on the Maki? Probably not monthly. I don't want to, post a ton of videos of it, I don't think, because I know there's a lot of people that also aren't into it. I don't want to make this seem like it's some electric car channel, like nonstop or anything, because that's certainly not my intention. And so, it's going to come down to, how much you guys want to see Maki content. I'm going to be doing a video probably on Monday about the ownership or buying the Maki and the headache of getting the vehicle. We ordered it 10 months ago, and it finally shows up, and it's been a very stressful process between then and now. And it's a whole big long thing of drama. With the dealership was amazing. It was that Ford dropped the ball in so many ways, and they do a really good job of communicating in some ways and also do a terrible job of communicating in other ways. And some of the communication, though, that they do give you is maddening and annoying and makes it a worse experience than if they just not done any communication at all. So I'll get into it. It's going to be a whole long, probably 20-minute long rant that I'll be posting probably later on tomorrow. I haven't filmed it yet, so I'm going to try and film and upload it fairly quickly tomorrow. But so I'll be doing that. And then based on how that video is received, I can potentially do more Maki stuff. And again, I'll probably do a vlog road trip, since it sounds like that's something that some of you want to see. And see how that stuff does. If that stuff gets good views and is well received, then I can maybe do more stuff. But it's also hopefully going to be an uneventful ownership experience where it's just, if there's common questions, I can maybe do an FAQ kind of video on it or something like that. But otherwise, as long as it's issue free, there's really not going to be a whole lot to talk about beyond my initial review. So So yeah, but we'll see. I mean, and if it turns out to be unreliable, then I'll be doing updates every day. If it turns into a nightmare, I'll vlog about it until I get rid of it. But hopefully it's good. We keep it for the full lease period there, and that's it. Um, but yeah, and Justin's asking, this is random, but what are your favorite movies of all time, and what are your favorite genres? Favorite genres, it's really kind of all over the place. I'm very all over the place with my movie preferences, with my music preferences. It's one extreme or the other, just all over the place. So favorite movies of all time, I would have to say Back to the Future is one of the best in my opinion. Casablanca is also one of my favorites. So again, totally polar opposite kind of stuff. I love a lot of really classic stuff from the 40s, 50s, 60s. Bullet is one of my favorite movies of all time as well. Even though I know a lot of people hate the movie and just like the chase, I think the actual whole movie is good as long as you're okay with slower movies. But also, I really love the Fast and the Furious. The original Fast and the Furious is one of the things that really opened my eyes to modified cars. I mean, I kind of knew about it from Gran Turismo and stuff, but the Fast and the Furious was really what opened my mind to like, wow, this is like something people actually do, and this is super cool. And obviously, it's glamorized for Hollywood, but as an impressionable, 12-year-old, watching that, I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. And so that's really stuck with me, and I still think it's the best Fast and Furious movie of all 9 here. But I've really enjoyed most of them, so I'd say those are all in my top as well. I also love James Bond movies, so I'd say Casino Royale is up there as one of my top favorite movies, just in general. And then as far as the James Bond series goes as well, I think it's one of my favorites. But I also loved No Time to Die until the ending. The ending royally pissed me off. And then I kind of got over it, and I just accepted it. It still is a very good movie, even though I didn't like the ending and the way they did it. But it was still just Daniel Craig, I think, is just 10 out of 10, like the best ever. So that was also another top favorite movie for me. So those are probably some of the top ones. It's the easy stuff. It's Fast and Furious, James Bond, typical guy stuff for the most part. But I do love a lot of classics as well. So, and I have all my movies up there. You probably can't see them because this is only in 720p and stuff, but yeah, I got a bunch of movies that I really, really love. I'm super, super into movies. Also, I can't forget the Dark Knight stuff. That's also all the Batman stuff, and especially the Dark Knight Rises, since I watched them film half of that in downtown Pittsburgh and did all the behind the scenes stuff for that. That also holds a very near and dear place in my heart. So all the Dark Knight series is also a top pick for me. But thanks for the fun question, Justin. Two Tang says, just waiting for Matt's Bullet to get on RCR. You both are in Pennsylvania. RCR voice, my bullet is best bullet because yeah, that would be fun. It was fun meeting up with him to do the EcoBoost many years ago now. Yeah, I'd be up for having him review the Bullet if he wants to. I'm very selective with who I let drive that car, though. I've only let my mechanic, and who else has actually driven that car? That might be it. I haven't even let any of my best friends drive it. Yeah, I think there's probably one or two other people that have driven it like once for like a very brief period, but it's basically just like the guy that changes my oil, Pittsburgh Views. He's probably driven that car more than anyone else has aside from myself, which is still very limited. Maybe he's probably driven it like 2 miles collectively. Which is very hypocritical since everyone is so kind and letting me drive their cars all the time. But that Bullet is just, again, it's my baby, and I just don't let anyone touch it usually. So Beth's never driven it. She can kind of drive manual, but she's never driven it. Yeah, no one else has ever really driven it. And Justin says, that's actually how I came across your channel, was the Dark Knight stuff. Wow, yeah, you've been with me a long time. I really appreciate the long time support, because that was 2010 or 2011 I posted that, one or the other. So we're talking over 10 years now. It's crazy. I'm getting old. So other questions here. Orion says, will the 2023 Mustangs have a limited run before the new gen comes out? Yeah, I believe so. And I don't know how limited the run's going to be, because I believe order guides came out for 2023 Mustang already. I'm not certain on that, but I thought it usually comes out around, I think even earlier than now usually. But I think there will be, because I mean, there's a teasers of the, what do they call it? The Dark Horse version of the new black package for the 2023s, I'm assuming, because they're showing a teaser of the current generation back end with the blacked out appearance. So I believe that'll be a 2022 23 thing. And there's got to be a decent run, for 2023. And I think, again, with the 2024 Mustang, it'll probably be, it's going to be shown next month, but, it'll probably be a while before we even hear specs for it. And they're probably not going to put it into production until middle of next year, maybe next spring at the earliest. So it's going to be a while. So I think we probably will have a pretty full 2023 model year for the Mustang, would be my guess. Could be totally wrong. They could debut it in September and say, this is going to be available to buy next month. But if it's actually going to be a 2024, it's got to probably wait till sometime next year, before they can actually justify calling it a 2024. So I think that means we at least got 6 months of 2023 Mustang production, but again, I could be wrong. Anything's possible, really. Yavinder is asking, Matt, do you think it's worth trading in my 2017 Honda Accord Touring V6 for a Cadillac CT5V or Acura TLX Type S? Any other recommendations besides Genesis? Well, obviously it's going to come down to, what you're looking for dynamically, performance-wise, as far as whether it's worth the upgrade for you or not. But yes, if you can afford either of those vehicles very easily, and it's a nice upgrade for you over the Accord, 100%, go for it. Between the two, I would say that I had more fun in the CT5V. I think it sounds a little bit better, and you have the rear-wheel drive set up, or rear-wheel drive with all-wheel drive added, but still a rear-wheel drive based platform versus the front-wheel drive based thing with the TLX Type S. But the TLX Type S also handles so well, as you saw in my review. So, it just kind of comes down to what kind of driving dynamics you prefer. I think as far as which one is the more dynamic car, that would be a CT5V. It's just got better bones, in my opinion. It's those Cadillacs, CTS is the same thing. They just felt so agile and eager. They just desperately love diving into corners. It's like they set them up for autocross, but it's a Cadillac that's comfortable and it's a great daily driver, but it's so eager to change direction. And that platform and that the alpha platforms in those things is just fantastic. So if it were my money, I would probably go CT5V. But TLX Type S is not bad if there's some preference, but also, you have to deal with the controller pad in the TLX versus normal easy touchscreen on the CT5V. I think also the TLX Type S might have better resale value, so not sure how long you plan to keep it for, but you might be a little bit better protected pricing-wise getting the TLX over the Cadillac, which could depreciate since it's not the Blackwing and it's not, the special one. But yeah, I would probably go CT5V most likely personally. And other recommendations, I think honestly those are probably the best two off the top of my head, because I actually have my dad car list of cars that I would get if I were looking for just something just for me that I was wanting to get. And CT5V is what I would get in that price range. Stinger GT2, I know you said no Genesis. I don't know if you're open to Kia, but Kia Stinger is also great. That would be the other one, but otherwise it'd be Genesis stuff, or if you're going cheaper down the chain. If you're into Hondas, the new Civic Si is also great too, and that would be another dad car potentially for me if I were to just have something that I'm just driving myself. I think those are great as well. So Skylar Supercar Life, thank you so much for the super chat. He says GT350 versus GT350R, which one to buy? I've not driven an R, so I can't say from a driving standpoint. From a collectability standpoint and a resale value standpoint, GT350, the R version, is going to definitely be the better investment. I just don't know if it's a better driving experience to pay the premium. It's very similar. It's just a little bit of tuning and, the carbon fiber wheels and stuff, which certainly will help. But GT350s are fantastic, on their own. So again, I don't know, what your budget is that you're looking for here, but GT350, I think, would be fantastic on its own. I loved everyone that I've ever driven. They're very special, very exciting. And yeah, I'm sure the R is a little bit better handling wise, but you're going to have the same straight line experience. So I would probably personally save the money and just go GT350 between the two. But thank you so much for the super chat. Chillin' with Dylan says, hey Matt, in your opinion, would it be worth it to purchase a 2020 Mustang GT Premium non-performance pack? It has very low mileage as well. So I mean, it depends on, again, what you're looking for. But if you're into Mustangs, you want, a Mustang of that generation. I think that the regular non-performance pack is still really fun. I mean, that was my first two GTs were regular GTs, and they were a blast. Before I had, the performance pack one with the bullet. So yeah, I mean, I think that they're also more comfortable cruisers. So I don't know, again, what you plan on doing with the vehicle. And obviously, you can stiffen it up with aftermarket stuff too if you want. But yeah, I don't think that you need the performance pack in order to have a good Mustang experience. I think they're all fantastic. You still get the same great, fantastic engine, that's so much fun to use. You still have the great comfort. It's a great all around vehicle still. So yeah, I would still certainly recommend it. And again, there's all those things. If you find yourself being like, oh, this doesn't have as much grip as I want, swap wheels and tires, or add in sway bars, or you can always do things and add stuff from the performance pack after the fact, and just start low and work your way up if you want. So I mean, that's the great thing with the Mustangs. There's so much flexibility and stuff. You're not locked into one experience. You can change it to be exactly the experience you want it to be. So yeah, I think as long as it's been well taken care of and all that, totally I think it's a great purchase. I love all my Mustangs that I've ever had, so yeah, the one Kea says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Moran. Would you still have bought a Bullet if it had a Voodoo instead of the variant of the Coyote? I found your channel when you reviewed the 2015 Mustang V6." Yeah, well, thank you for being a subscriber for so long. As far as your question, that's tough because that's, if you watch my video on why I bought the Bullet over GT350, because a lot of people back then were like, why are you buying a Bullet? Like, GT350 was around the same price point used, and it's like, oh, it's so much better, and the engine is more special for sure. My problem with the GT350s, and Skylar, I know you're probably shopping them here, but my one problem with the GT350 was that it's just that motor, especially back then, was just like blowing up left and right on people. They were just chugging oil like crazy. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I thought the owner's manual even said that like consuming a quart of oil every 1,000 miles was usual for the Voodoo. I could be totally wrong and way off, but if my memory serves me right, that's what it said. And so it's like, I'm kind of lazy. I want something that's reliable, and I don't have to be babying it and constantly checking the dipstick every week to make sure that I'm not bleeding oil. It's just a little more work than I'm personally willing to put up with for, a vehicle that's just a daily driver, fun kind of car. And I know that's nothing compared to classic car ownership and some of these other exotics and stuff that you got to bend over backwards to, do a million things with them. But that's tough though, because if they put it in the Bullet, I wanted the Bullet so bad. I love that look, and I wanted a Bullet that if they put the Voodoo in it, I might have taken a chance. I might have just been like, well, fingers crossed, at least I got a warranty, and would have, just hoped for the best with the Voodoo, because there are some people that have no issues with them. It's a hit or miss kind of thing. That's a very good question though. I actually I never thought about that scenario. But I would probably have gone for it and hope for the best. That's probably what I would have done. Great question. Great question, though. That's that was very, very thought provoking. Tu Chang says, next three questions are one by one. You own Maran Racing. Who's your driver? James May, Captain Slow, Cletus, or Job from Donut? I don't know him. I don't watch Donut either. Again, I don't watch very much YouTube, so I'm sorry I'm so out of the loop on that. I don't know Cletus's driving skills. I've only run across him one time, I think. I think it was on the Corvette launch, unless it's someone else I'm thinking of. But James May, of course, because one, I mean, yeah, he's Captain Slow, but he also, I think he's a pretty good driver, honestly. But I wouldn't even care about winning if I had a racing team. I would just be like, if James May would be my driver, it'd be hilarious fun. I would just film everything he says, and it'd be way too much fun. So that would be that'd be the way I'd go. And by the way, I don't know if any of you if you follow James May or any of his stuff, but I'm still a huge fan of everything he does. And so he just posted on Amazon Prime the new Our Man in Italy series, which isn't quite as funny as the Our Man in Japan when they did a couple of years back. But I'm going through it now. Beth and I are watching it, and it's really funny. He just filmed a Ferrari Roma that he drove around Fiorano there in Italy and stuff. It just, everything James May says is hilarious in my opinion. I never get tired of watching him, even though I know it's kind of slow and a little bit tedious at times. He's just one of my favorite presenters for anything in general. So James May is awesome. So that'd be my pick. Good question. Daniel says, do you think Ford will improve the manual and auto transmissions in the next gen Mustang? I got rid of my 2016 GT because I couldn't get past the clutch. Yeah, the clutch is definitely tricky in those for sure. I do not blame you one bit for that. The Bullet is still one of the hardest cars to drive from a clutch standpoint. But you say, I would love to see a Mustang with a ZF 8-speed. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a ZF 8-speed. Obviously, Ford likes doing their transmissions in-house. But as far as the manual goes, there's been talks that they'll put the Tremec in everything, going forward here for the new one. That would be a huge improvement. It would be really welcome. And the Tremec cars, at least the Shelbys, were a lot easier with the clutch as well versus the regular Mustang. So, yeah, I think that there's a chance the manual gets improved. The auto will probably still be the 10-speed. They might have some little improvements for it. I mean, a nice surprise would be if they put the dual clutch from the GT500 in, but I can't see them justifying that, especially for the more affordable versions of the Mustang. Maybe they'd put it in some special edition version or something like that. But yeah, so, but I don't know. I think there's a decent chance the Tremec goes into the new manual Mustang, but we'll see. From a cost-cutting standpoint and stuff, they might just want to stick to the MT82 and maybe do incremental improvements because, I mean, they did beef things up a little bit for the 2019s, I believe. Whenever they did the auto rev matching and put that in, I believe they also made everything a little stouter is what I read, I believe, way back then. But the clutch is still tricky. It's the same, kind of imprecise, finicky clutch in those cars. But, yeah, but that's the only thing I would expect. You're right, though. ZF 8-speed automatic Mustang would be awesome for sure. Two Chang's next question here is your mechanic, Chris, Scotty, or Orcar Wizard. Not sure who that is. Definitely not Scotty. Definitely would be Chris because Chris Fix is a personal friend of mine, and 100% I trust him to do anything with my car, including drive it. But he's awesome. So 100% would be Chris Fix all day, every day. And Two Chang's last question here says, your car choice has to be new and under an MSRP of 20 grand. New and under 20 grand. Ooh, you're making it tough on me here. I mean, there's very few even options at that price point. Man, I don't even know. I mean, because there's like Nissan Versa, Mitsubishi Mirage. What else is actually new under 20 these days? It's probably those two. And if it's between those two, 100% I'd do the Versa over the Mirage. Because the Mirage is like a 1980s Econobox hatch that they've, lightly updated over the past 30 years or 40 years. And that's about it. Yeah, so that would probably be my pick. That's a tough one. Isaac, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, congrats on the new BEV purchase. Great choice. Thank you. I'm glad you're excited about it. And hopefully it's good and reliable and doesn't give us any issues, but we're really enjoying it so far. Two Chang's next question says, your pit manager, Doc Hudson from Cars, Talladega Nights, or Shelby from Ford versus Ferrari? Never saw Ford versus Ferrari. Have seen Talladega Nights and Cars, but I would, I don't know. That's probably just Doc Hudson because a talking car would be really cool, right? And Speedy 500 says Shelby from Fast or Ford versus Ferrari is what he's chiming in and saying. Oh, John saying the Kia Soul is another one under 20. Yeah, that could be a great choice. The Kia Souls are fantastic values, so that'd be a great choice as well. Skull FT says, now that the new designs have been out a while, what do you think of modern BMWs? Are we used to the M3, M4 look yet, or the new 7 Series? I'd say that the M3 and M4, I'm slowly getting used to it. I still don't like it, but it doesn't burn my eyes like it did when I first saw it. So it's better. I still would never buy one. Just the looks are just not that great still, in my opinion. But I have gotten used to it. 7 Series, again, now, since that's a little bit newer, there's still some shock factor there where I'm like, kill it with fire. But it's getting better. So I could see the M3 and M4, if I really wanted something in that segment, that the styling wouldn't be a deal killer anymore, I don't think. But the new 7 Series, I think there's, the A8 looks way better. And the S-Class looks super good. So I think, there's lots of great choices there. You don't have to go with something that's, goofy looking. But, to each their own, of course. And Aporia says that Ford vs. Ferrari was a genuinely good movie. I would love to see it. I've just fallen behind on my movie viewing in the past few years, being much busier now than I used to be. So I just don't have as many chances. I haven't played video games in years. I'm just too busy anymore. But I'd love to get back into it sometime soon here. Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, have you ever had a brake master cylinder cause your front wheels to lock up? I had that happen on my 06 Camry about a month ago. Yikes. Well, hopefully you got out of it unscathed and safely, but man, that's definitely scary. Now, I've never had that happen. That would not be good. I've had definitely some hairy experiences in cars, especially when I used to just drive cars as kind of like a lot attendant and stuff way back when. But never had anything where the brakes had an issue aside from just being weak. But never had them lock up or anything. That's wild. Phew, that would be an oh crap moment for sure. But Yahtzee says he can't stand the beaver teeth BMW either. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe they will age better or something, but I don't know why they're doing that stuff. Like, I mean, there's been photoshops of normal grills on these cars and they look great. Like, it's not hard, but like BMW is like one of the few companies where it's like they can't do like appealing styling for everyone. They have to be polarizing for some reason. I have no clue why. But it's just it's strange to me, the choices that BMW is making currently. Sean says, can you or will you reach out to Matt Farah and get on the smoking tire? I'd love to. I'm in Pittsburgh here. He's out in California there, but I'd be more than happy to join for a podcast or something like that down the road. Matt Farah is a really cool guy. I've never had much like one-on-one time with him, but I've been on a lot of press events with him, and I've had a chance to be having a beer in a circle of people, of us all talking together, and he's a very cool guy. He just speaks his mind, and he doesn't really have much of a filter, but I kind of respect that. And, I think he's an excellent driver, way better than I will probably ever be, and super knowledgeable, and respect him a lot. So I'd be more than happy to ever join, but I've never, been invited on anything like that. Yeah, it's be very, very cool for sure. And I'm hoping to bump into him on maybe GR Corolla when I do that launch here towards the end of this month. He might be on that because he really only shows up for the performance stuff, so that's usually the only time I ever have a chance to bump into him. But he's super nice. He's the first time I actually met him was the Detroit Auto Show back in like 2014 or 2015, and I just came up to say hi because I was like a fan. And I think he thought that I looked a little familiar, and I said, "Oh yeah, Super Deluxe fan." He's like, "Oh yeah, like people really love your stuff. Like, keep doing, great." I mean, he was super nice. He did not need to be nice to me, and he totally was. And it really impressed me back then. I know, he's a very polarizing person to a lot of people and stuff, but at least to me, he's always been super nice, and that's something that can't be said for everyone else that I've encountered. So I very much respect him for sure. Bert says, I still think the little 1M is a Bavarian hot rod. It had to be concocted over a night of drinking amongst the M engineers. One of the few BMWs that continues to hold and even appreciate and value. Yeah, the 1Ms are great. I actually had a friend many years ago that had one. It was so fun to be around that car all the time. It sounded super good. I never rode in it. I drove a couple back when I worked at a BMW dealer, again back in a past life. Yeah, they're very fun little cars, and just one of the coolest things ever. And I'm excited. I think the M2 was really good too. I think it was a great follow-up. I love the M2, and I think that's another car that thankfully still has a good look to it, and is one of the best BMWs I think out there currently. And if I was looking at something other than the Bullet, an M2 would be a consideration, because it's kind of very similar mechanicals to the Supra, but the Supra doesn't have a back seat. But having a daughter, I'd want to have a back seat to take her along for anything that I would do car wise. So I think the M2 would be a really great, more practical Supra, in a way. And so the M2 is the one car from BMW that I really would seriously consider owning, that I think is great. And the 1KS says, thanks for the great answer, Mr. Maran. Which charging network and associated device apps have you and Beth tried out so far? Matt Farah has spoken at length about charging challenges with his Maki. I haven't seen that. Someone else mentioned that he was having issues with it, but the last video I saw from Matt on his Maki was that it was fine and he was really impressed with it and stuff. And that was probably over a year ago now. But I don't know. I mean, charging challenges are, I mean, that's something I will be finding out firsthand whenever we road trip, to the beach here next month. So, yeah, if it turns out to be a nightmare, then that will be something I will definitely document and vlog and roast about. But as far as charging networks, from the forums, I've been on the Maki forums for a while, kind of seeing everyone else's experiences, and it seems like overall it's mostly positive and pretty good. But as far as your question, charging network, I haven't used any of them so far. I've only charged it at home, but I'm planning on using primarily Electrify America for this road trip next month because they have the most charging stations along my route so far that I'm seeing. And also, when you get a Maki, you get 250 kilowatts of free fast charging on Electrify America. So it'll make the road trip basically free to charge up as well. So, so that's one thing I'm, going to be using mostly Electrify America. And I've heard they're one of the most reliable ones, but I also have apps for ChargePoint. And what's the other one that I have? I can pull up my phone really quick because I downloaded all the apps so that I have like everything covered. EVgo is the other one that I'm planning on having as a backup. But I'm hoping Electrify America can keep me covered for the most part. All right, and I see you have some random stuff in all caps here. Alpha Rats is where were you a lot attendant? I worked at a Honda dealer. It was an awesome first job. I worked as it was actually kind of a detailer. So I was detailer / lot attendant for the Swickley car store here, which is it was BMW, Audi, and Porsche. So very fun job as a 17-year-old to have that. My first job not cutting grass was working at McDonald's. But after that, I moved on to detailing there for that dealer. And it was amazing. I mean, to be a 17-year-old driving brand new Porsche 911s, which back then was the 997 generation, it was amazing. I mean, I remember the first day I went to work and I opened the door and there's a brand new Cayman revving as it's backing up into the spot for the detail bay. And it was just my little mind was blown as a 17-year-old, holy crap, this is amazing. How am I getting paid to do this? That's truly how I felt when I first started doing it. It was amazing. So it was fun. But yeah, I mean, I kind of learned how to drive manual there. They had a work truck that I learned manual on. And then once I got the basics on that, then I was refining my skills on, the awesome stuff they had there, the S4s and the RS4s and all those things. It was a blast. Brian B is asking, when is the Nissan Aria Media Drive event? I don't know. Nissan had never invited me to anything until the Z. I'm very glad they invited me on the Z launch. I don't know if they're going to continue to invite me on stuff after that or not. But I don't know when the Aria Media Drive is here. But that's one I probably consider doing. I'm still very selective about which electric vehicles I review because I feel like there's not a ton of demand on this channel for all of them. So that's always something I'm very cautious about, accepting, stuff for that, as far as invites go. But another question here is asking, is there any news about the all new 2023 Mazda 6? Nothing still. I think that's kind of on the back burner for them. I think Mazda's focused on getting the CX-70 and they just announced the CX-60 for the other parts of the world, but then CX-70 here for the States and then CX-90. And then I think after those two, we're talking probably 2025 or something at least before we see some kind of new Mazda 6. I'm guessing it's going to be a while, I think, unfortunately. Other questions here. Ernesto saying, hey, Matt, any chance you review one of those Pro Touring super muscle cars? Your reaction would be priceless. I'd love to review, some of that stuff. I just did some of the stock muscle cars a few years back. I had a friend that let me drive his Super Beast 6-pack and the Roadrunner stuff, all the Mopar stuff from the late 60s. I did a few of those and they were fun. A 1970 Challenger. All those cars that were a little tricky to drive for sure. It definitely takes some extra skill. But anything Pro Touring wise would be fun too. It would be very fun. You're right. My reactions would be wild, I'm sure. So I'd love to test some of that stuff out, but nothing in the pipeline or anything that I know currently. Steven Mendez says, do you recommend the Ioniq 5 or maybe wait for an N version? I love the Ioniq 5. If you watched my review on it, I was very positive in it. I think it's really good. I wish it had a rear wiper, and there's one or two other things. Not having wireless Apple CarPlay is a little bit of a bummer, but apparently there's an aftermarket like adapter you can do to do wireless CarPlay. But I think the Ioniq 5 is great. If Beth had liked the styling on it, it would have been a contender for us. Because she loves the Genesis GV60, which is on the same platform, but she just wasn't into the styling. I personally love the styling. So whether I would have personally gone for an Ioniq 5 over the Maki if it was just me deciding, I don't know. Because again, I really like the way that Ford had set a lot of the things up as well. But Ioniq 5 is still fantastic for sure, and a lot better in a lot of ways. Like the charging's faster and it has wider tires and stuff as well. Yeah, I think Ioniq 5 is great. Definitely recommend it. Definitely test drive one too, before you wait for an end version, because especially if you're not used to electric power delivery, it's so fast and immediate that might be enough power for you, to not have to go up to the end version. But yeah, definitely test drive one if you can, and give it a shot. Sean's asking, do you have a 9 to 5 job, or are you full time on YouTube? Savage Geese went on a rant about how he is losing money and how he might have to throw in the towel. I missed that video. I'll have to check that out. If you can maybe put a comment as far as, I definitely want to see that, because I'm good friends with them, and I've talked with them a little bit about, we're all burned out. So to answer your question first, before I go on a little tangent here, I don't have a 9 to 5 job. I've been full-time on YouTube since 2015. I'm very grateful that I am able to do it full-time, and I don't have any kind of side job. This is my only job, and that's what I devote all my time to. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, at least for me. With editing is the bane of my existence now. It takes me like at least 12 hours to edit a car review. It's 20 or 30 minutes long. Sometimes it's been longer recently, especially some of these cars that have so much that I need to cover, as far as they have a ton of competitors, and they have, a bunch of, stuff to just technical stuff to cover, like the GV60 had a lot more stuff to cover. Some of those, it takes me actually 2 full days to edit some of those car reviews. So it's tough, especially whenever, like I can totally understand Savage Geese and their frustrations, because I've talked with Jack personally a bunch about how, we're all burned out. It's really tough. I'm trying to think of how I can spell this out, because I could go on for 2 hours about this alone. So I'm going to try and keep this short so that I'm not backed up on questions here too badly. But I would just say that the way YouTube is changing things and the way that viewership is changing in general, it makes it's getting harder and harder to do what we do. With TikTok, everyone wants, a 15-second video at most. And, the people who are willing to have a long enough attention span to sit down and watch a car review, which again, that number is shrinking quickly. And the people who do stick around to do that, they're watching Doug DeMuro, they're watching Throttle House, they're watching the big guys, because they do some of the best videos. And I don't blame them. We're all competing, and it is what it is. The best will rise above, and those who, can't make it will, die off. And I could be one of those channels as well eventually. Thankfully I've been able to, keep the channel afloat. But my growth is way down. This channel peaked back in 2018. I'm not sure, where Savage Geese has peaked at. And I know they have a large Patreon following, which I think certainly helps them as well. That's part of one of the reasons why I started doing the memberships here on YouTube, was to kind of give a little bit more stability, because it used to be with YouTube, you could count on a certain amount of money because you got a certain amount of views typically. And it was, there was variances for sure. And there was seasonal changes where you get paid more towards the holidays because the ads pay more and stuff. But overall, there was a certain baseline that I could count on, and that baseline is slowly eroding. And it's like, okay, now YouTube says they want more videos. Guess what? We're already burned out. And if it takes me 2 days to edit a car review, having YouTube say that they push channels more when they upload more, it's like, great. Well, now I got to burn myself out even more to get more content out there. And, it's really, really tough, especially doing it, all on my own. Some of these guys that do put out a lot of videos, they have a team behind them, or at least, one other person helping them. Or they just do shorter videos. And I've also contemplated that if I have to, go to doing daily uploads or doing something that's a lot more, filming intensive, then that's going to have to cut in on the editing time. So I'm going to have to do either one takes or do really shorter videos that have less information. I love giving you guys really in-depth stuff, and I know it takes me forever to kind of talk through all that stuff, and that's why my videos are so long. But I might just have to start doing more surface level stuff if that's the only way I can keep up, and just keep them to 10 minutes and be like, very short and to the point, and don't give a ton of context and a ton of impressions, and just be like, yep, it drives great, it gets good fuel economy, end of story. And just kind of be really less detailed than I would like to be, because it's just tough. I think TikTok is the biggest thing. I know everyone loves TikTok as a whole, but it is killing video, because guess what? No one gets paid for these TikToks unless you have a brand deal. So there's very little money to be made. And so if there's less money to be made, and I mean, that's great. People are making stuff for free and they're putting it out there just for the fun of it. And it's very fun in that way with TikTok. But it just means that those of us who rely on this for our living and, are trying to approach this like an actual real job and not just some fun little thing to make a viral video here and there, it's really hard. And, yes, we could all go to TikTok and do 15-second videos about me just going, woohoo, this is fast, and post that, and that's it. I just posted a reel last night of that, basic thing in the GV60, but that, unless you're doing a brand deal and you're saying, oh, sweet, like I'm in the GV60 thanks to Pepsi or something, like, that takes so much more work to do those kind of ad integrations. But that's something I'm also trying to, do a little bit more of. If you saw the weekly update this week, that was sponsored by Omaze. I'm starting to try and get into it. I used to say no to ad deals for years unless it was really awesome or something I really wanted to do. I was super picky about ad deals. I might get a little less picky going forward, just because, again, we're all slowly getting squeezed out. Unless you're one of the top dogs, it's going down. It's, views are struggling to be what they used to be. Earnings are struggling to be what they used to be. It's just it's tough out there currently. We'll see where it goes. I've always said, I love doing this. I'd love to do this full time the rest of my life. I don't ever even want to retire, because I love what I do. I have a natural curiosity, for just driving cars. I love driving a new car every week. It's super fun. It's really cool. It's an awesome job. But I will do it as long as I can, but I don't know if that's going to be another 5 years, another 10 years. I would love for it to be. I'd love to do this until I'm 90 years old, but we'll see. If TikTok kills everyone's attention span, and I can't make more than a couple $100 a month doing reels and TikToks or something, then that'll be the end of it, and I'll have to go to something else. So anything's possible. We're still in the wild west of video and the internet here. Everything's very quickly evolving and changing. And I know I have 2 super chats here, so I don't want to keep people waiting, but I see Apriana is saying, why don't you just hire an editor? I love to hire an editor. That is like what I dream about at night, is hiring an editor. But that's very expensive to hire a good editor. That's, I want to pay someone well. There's been 1 or 2 people in the past that have been like, hey, like I'd love to edit your videos for free just to get some experience or things like that. But I want to hire someone that I can keep on for a long time, because I want someone who can learn my editing style and improve upon my editing, but also someone who knows cars. That's the thing. Like, I could go on Fiverr and hire some random editor, but they don't know cars. They're not going to know that I need to go to the media site to get this B-roll clip for the weekly update, or that I need to have this. You need to know cars to edit a car video. So that really shrinks the pool of who you're able to hire to edit. And then you got to pay them well, because no one's motivated to work for free. So you have to pay someone enough to motivate them to do a good job. And so it's just, currently I can't afford it. The margins are too thin on these videos. If I got way more views, a lot of the bigger guys, do have editors that they pay, but I just can't afford to currently. So, and again, the channel is going down in views, not up. So I don't think that's going to get any better, but I'd love to be able to change direction here, but it just seems like it's getting harder, not easier. So I'm not optimistic about that, but I don't mind editing the videos. It's a lot of work, but anyway, sorry for the tangent there. But Luco, thank you so much for the super chat. He says Mazda really needs to develop modern transmissions. Yeah, and I think, didn't they say, what is this? I thought the CX60 that they just debuted with a new engine, I thought that had an 8-speed. And I believe they're working on a new transmission. So I think that is coming relatively soon. You'll probably see that first in the new CX70 and CX90. So I think that is something they have on the way for sure. But thank you so much for the super chat, Luke. Goth Rocker, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. He says, I heard the new Mustang GT is going to be $4,000 to $5,000 more. Not putting the Mustang down, but Ford needs to realize you can get a very nice used Corvette for less money. Not putting the Mustang down, price is high. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, everything's going up in price though, so um, it'll be very curious. I'll be curious to see what happens when the used car market collapses, because I think it is going to start collapsing soon. Repossessions are already up really high. They're climbing a lot. I thought I read a report that repos used to be at like, I don't know, 3 or 4%, and they're up to like 10% already. So everyone buying these, record high transaction price vehicles, and the average car loan being over $800 a month now for new car purchases and stuff, it's catching up, especially with inflation and everything. It's something's got to give, and I think that that's going to really drop used stuff, and maybe make people, or car companies, realize that the new stuff needs to kind of slow down a little bit as well with the price increases there. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that one of the staples of the Mustang is they were always, pretty affordable. Obviously, they've already increased them over the past couple of years here, but hopefully they keep the pricing in check. But as far as the used thing, that's always a tough argument, because obviously you can buy anything for any price if it's used and has enough miles on it. So it's as far as new stuff, hopefully they keep it competitive with other new stuff. But it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. But no, I agree. I mean, I love my Bullet. It's 50 grand, but I think that's with my mind, that's about as high as I'm willing to go, for a Mustang. Before, again, Supra's fantastic. You have all these really impressive cars once you're getting up over 50 grand. And so hopefully they do keep them in check, and hopefully that Dodge keeps them in check as well by pricing the Challenger very competitively to, because that's the thing, is competition needs to be such that, they keep each other in check. Otherwise, if they don't, it just, everything's going to balloon out of control, but, so Tu Chang has another question here. Maran Racing, you can have any JDM car from the 90s, but you have to use Moog and Marty as your driver and merchandise team. Chris can advise, but can't touch anything. I don't even know who Moog and Marty are. Sorry, I'm, again, terribly out of touch with so many things, apparently. But thank you for the question, Tu Chang. And David says, OMG, I would miss Savage Geese and Matt Moran. If they leave YouTube, then I'm probably out. I hope you find a good path. I appreciate it. And I don't want to speak for Savage Geese either. I don't know, what they will plan and what will happen ultimately for any of us. I just know that all of us are burned out. And this isn't just Savage Geese. This is everybody. I mean, I have a bunch of other YouTuber friends that I'm in group chats with and talk with, and we're all burned out, because it's just the way YouTube keeps changing everything. Now they're telling us we need to do shorts. That shorts, they want to compete with TikTok. So they actually admitted that channels that do shorts now grow faster than channels that don't. And part of that might just be that, okay, yeah, there's people trying out shorts on YouTube now, and that's causing some extra channel discovery that then, comes over and helps those channels to grow. But it also seems like YouTube is like, oh, you do shorts, let's push your stuff more. And so it's like, great, now I got to do shorts. And so it's just like, this has always kind of been one of the struggles with YouTube. But I mean, this is like any other job, right? You have an annoying boss, you have crap you got to put up with. It's annoying and you wish you didn't have to deal with. It's the same thing. The algorithm is my boss, essentially. The changes of YouTube are just the things. It's like, now they want me to do this. I mean, we all can kind of relate to that. So this isn't like, a woe is me kind of thing or anything, but it's just, it's just annoying whenever, you have something that works, or you have something that, you're used to, and then you have to go and try and change and adapt. I mean, obviously evolving and adapting is what we all have to do, but it's just not easy whenever you have, an established formula like us car review channels do, where we cover the same certain things. A car review must consist of certain things being covered. And if you don't cover those things, then it's just entertainment. I'm not here. I mean, I enjoy entertaining with the reactions, and, I want the videos to be fun, but I'm also doing them to, be educational and informative. I do this channel, I love putting a smile on people's faces, but it's also, my main driver is helping you find a car you will love. Whatever that car will be, whatever your preferences are, I want to, try and cover everything so that I can help people find whatever it is that they want, that they're going to love. That's why I do this. And, doing a 15-second TikTok is not going to help anyone find the car they're going to love, in my opinion. maybe it will, maybe someone will crack the code and find some super helpful way to do a TikTok. But this, to me, that's just entertainment. YouTube is more informative. And I hope that YouTube kind of carves out a niche where they're okay being like, hey, we are going to be the educational, informative place to go for videos, not just the place you go for a quick laugh, and I hope that maybe YouTube can kind of lean into that. But again, YouTube just wants to chase the numbers, and the numbers right now are TikTok. So it's, that's the way everything's going. But I'm sorry, this is probably annoying to be ranting about this, but it's a very interesting time the way things have been changing here. So Dom, thank you so much for being a member for 5 months here, and says congratulations on the new family car. Don't kill me, but what do you think about a Maki Bullet? I as much as I like the Maki and as much as I love the Bullet, I don't think that they would be a good crossover combination. I think that the Bullet has to kind of be respectful to the heritage of what a Bullet is. The Bullet is, they're all paying homage to a movie car that was a dark green 2-door Mustang. And I think, that's the core to the Bullet. I think other nameplates could be flexible. I think there's no reason why there couldn't be an electric Mach 1. I don't think there's any reason why there couldn't be any kind of electric variant of basically any other kind of, Mustang, as long as it's not doing a direct homage. So they did it Gone in 60 Seconds, Eleanor, that was electric. That also wouldn't make sense. I think that has to, again, be respectful of where it's inspired by. But I think there was actually someone who did wrap their Maki in dark green and put some black wheels on it. And I was like, it looks good. I wouldn't be opposed to the look of it. It's just that I wouldn't want it to be called a Bullet. But who knows? I mean, I hated the Maki in general when it first came out, and here I am now. I own one. So who knows? Maybe in 5 years they do a Maki Bullet, and I'm all about it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Good question, though. And thank you so much again for being a member, Dom. I really appreciate it. Eric Enfron, GFR, thank you so much for the very generous super chat here. He says, just wanted you to know how much I appreciate your content. Thanks, Matt. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. And I thank you so much for the support as well. It definitely means a lot. And like I said, the channel only can survive if you guys watch the video. So I very much appreciate the support. Thank you so much. And Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, I prefer your longer videos. I drive a semi for a living, so I listen to them over Bluetooth. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoy them, and glad to have something for you to enjoy while you're out on the road there, because I feel like being a semi-truck driver is a very thankless job these days, even though it's essential and it's something that all of us 100% rely on so much. So thank you for putting the hours and doing the job. I really, really appreciate that as well. So I'm happy that you're able to be a little bit more entertained there out on the road. And so, yeah, thanks for the support as well, and for doing what you do. Tu Cheng, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Totally not necessary, but he says, here's seeing a 70-year-old Matt Moran turning down a back road. That would be awesome. Hoping I can do that. Hopefully I can keep this going that long. That'd be awesome. Jazz, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, Matt, I chose a car based on your review. Should I write to the manufacturer in South Korea and let them know that your review was important to my purchase? It would be fun to see if they write me back. Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I think it's weird because I think some car companies do pay attention to that and some others don't. So it's because even back whenever I was trying to kind of get into press vehicles and launches and stuff like that, I even sent Subaru an email. I sent an email to the top guy at PR at Subaru with like a collage, because back then I asked, how many of you bought a BRZ because of my BRZ videos? And there was dozens of people who sent me pictures of them standing next to the BRZs and saying this was because of you opening my eyes to how awesome the BRZs were, whatever the case was. People that bought them because of the videos. And I sent that to Subaru. No response. They didn't care. Thankfully, over the years, Subaru has warmed over to me here, and they, invited me on the Deborah X launch and on the BRZ launches, and sent me the press vehicles and stuff. So 100%, I'm so glad that, they now, I've gotten the channel to a large enough point where they're willing to, spend the money and the time to, bring me out to the events and stuff. But yeah, so, but you could write to, the company and, send an email or something like that, and see if you get any kind of response. It certainly would be appreciated. I hope they would respond to you or at least read it, but I can't guarantee because, it just seems like, again, like everyone else, they go for the numbers, and, the videos that get the most views are the ones that are like, okay, this is influencing people, and that's kind of, the stuff that they flock to, and rightly so. I mean, it definitely makes sense. And Bert says, I wish car companies would stop increasing the overall size of every vehicle. The Volkswagen Jetta is practically the size of a Crown Victoria. You almost need a CDL for an F-150. Where does it end? It's a great point. It's kind of this funny thing where, and I think this has kind of pushed some cars out of existence in a way, because, the Jetta, for example, is so large now that do you really need a Passat? I mean, yes, the Passat's bigger and it's a little more comfortable, but do you need it? Do you need to spend the extra money? And I think that's why the Passat has really gone downhill in the past few years, especially because the Jetta also had newer tech, was a newer design, newer interior, while the Passat just, died on the vine essentially. But yeah, I mean, everything is growing really fast. And I think this is also a safety concern too. Not only is it, just it makes cars more expensive, you got to pack them with more technology, but it's also they're all heavier. They're saying that pedestrian fatalities are way up, that bicyclist fatalities are way up, partially because of everyone being distracted when they drive, but also because these vehicles are huge. It used to be you got hit by a Civic that was 2,500 pounds. Yeah, it sucked, but you probably had a better chance of surviving than you do now. With something that's super massive, especially with the rise of SUVs, not only being heavier but having the taller hoods. They're saying how like these SUVs are just crushing people, sadly, and it's just like, but it's like, what do you do? Like that's what people want, So it's obviously you have the more advanced safety techs, you have pedestrian detection now and all the automatic emergency braking stuff, but that can be turned off, or it doesn't always work as well as you'd hope it would. So it's one of these things of the world gets a little bit more dangerous, and it's just because that's what the people want. So it's unfortunate, but same thing with the cars. Everyone wants bigger cars. Everyone wants to sit up higher. Everyone wants to be in a massive SUV. Everyone wants to have something huge, and so as a result, that's it's the way things are going. It's wild times we're living in here. So Orion says TLX A-Spec or IS350 F-Sport. Well, that's going to come down to, again, do you want like a rear-wheel drive-based platform or a front-wheel drive-based one? Both are great in different ways. I think they're both really solid cars. I would probably say, personally, I'd rather have the TLX. I like the way that it's set up, the way that it drives a little bit better, especially if you're talking about the newest generation of the TLX here. IS350, though, is great. I think they're really solid. I think from a reliability standpoint, they're going to be the better buy. Resale-wise, they'll probably be the better buy, too. And they also have the touchscreen now if you go from the newer one, so that would probably be better. I really liked the new IS350 when I reviewed it, and the IS500 was amazing, too. Yeah, between those two, it's tough. It really comes down to what driving, style you like the most. I definitely suggest test driving both and seeing which one fits you better. Between me, it'd be tough, but I'd probably take the TLX. Ethan says, "Hey Matt, I'll be ordering a new WRX soon as my first car. What do you think I should expect from my ownership?" Not great fuel economy. That's one thing, obviously make sure you're prepared for that, because I was pretty disappointed in the fuel economy. Otherwise, though, they're really fun cars. They fixed some of the rev hang, which I think is very welcome. It's just a really fun car to rip around in. And I'm just really glad they still have kept the WRX around. I think they're awesome. So congrats on ordering one soon, and hopefully you don't have too much of a long wait for it. And hopefully it treats you well. But congrats on deciding on the WRX there. I think there's still kind of a one of one car out there, manual all-wheel drive these days. It's really tough to find. Dom says, "I think we'll go back to smaller cars eventually. History repeats itself." Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too, but like, I don't know, because like even gas prices were high. Now they've started to come down again a little bit, but gas prices. I was thinking, maybe that would drive people into a ton of hybrids and electric stuff. And I think it did a little bit, but I think, for a lot of people, it doesn't phase them like it did back in 2008, and I think, we'll see what happens. But I think a lot of people are willing to put up with a lot more from their cars these days than they used to. And I think we're in a cultural shift now where people aren't willing to compromise, when at least when it comes to cars. They want what they want, and I don't there's people that just they don't want to have a Nissan Versa, even though that would get them from point A to point B just fine. They don't want that, and they're willing to sacrifice in other areas in their life in order to have a really nice car. And I'm guilty of this as well. I don't need a almost 500 horsepower two-door car that I drive once a month if I'm lucky. I mean, I'm no better than anyone else with that stuff, but I think it's just as a culture, I don't know if people are willing to go to a small car again. I think that's why these companies are like Toyota is really pushing for everything hybrid. So that, yeah, you can have your RAV4, but you can get it in a hybrid, so you get decent fuel economy, and you don't have to make that compromise anymore. Then I think things are going to have to get real bad for there to even be enough offerings out there, because hardly anyone even offers anything small, car wise. And so I think it's going to have to get a lot worse for people to be like, okay, well, now I'm driving around in a tiny little subcompact because of my situation, So we'll see. But I mean, with gas prices already going down, I don't think, that's going to do it. And I think people like having what they like having. And so that's, we'll see. But I think small cars might be gone for good personally. Tu Chang says, last one heading out. When I got divorced, I was a little sad, but I found out that Matt is married. If the automotive Linus tech tip, I can find happiness, maybe I'll be okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But yeah, best of luck to you. Love is definitely a tough thing. I mean, divorce rates at 50% or something. So it's tough for sure. It takes a lot of work. And I heard a really good quote, not car related, but a really good quote that was also another cultural shift of, there was like some old couple that was like, yeah, like when we got married 65 years ago, like when things broke, we fixed them. And like now it's like people just walk away and, sell things, get rid of things. And same thing as kind of goes with relationships, where a lot of people just, aren't able to fix things. And, I have no clue about everyone's situation. So this isn't any kind of judgment, but it's just, that's just this thing that, I think we're seeing culturally, a phenomenon with cars and with everything, where you don't fix things, you don't keep things, you just, turn things over and stuff. So, I think that's something that, a lot of people are, struggling with at times as well. So anyway, random little tangent, but best of luck to you. I know it's tough. I've known other people that have been through some rough divorces, and it's definitely tough. So, best of luck though. And, yeah, it's not impossible to find love. That's for sure. I was single for a long time and gave up hope, many times. And then I was surprised. So it's definitely possible. And thanks for joining, Tu Chang. But also another super chat here from Goth Rocker. Thank you so much for another super chat. He says, Nissan killed Maxima. Ultima got bigger and offering all-wheel drive. Maxima with that V6 should have had all-wheel drive. Too much torque steer. Sad Maxima is going away. Nissan also killed the Z. Yeah, I think the Z is fun, but I totally see your point about the Maxima. And I think, yeah, that same thing as the Volkswagen Passat and the Jetta, where it's like, the Ultima is as big as a Maxima. So like, why would you spend the extra money for a Maxima unless you want the V6? But even the V6 was available in the Ultima for a while there. So, and yeah, you're right. The lack of all-wheel drive and stuff, it's, yeah, I think, yeah, Nissan definitely kind of took the wrong steps there to keep the Maxima alive. But hopefully the Z will resonate with enough people to keep it alive. Because as much as, I said, I think the Supra's better in my opinion, I hope there's a place for the Z. I hope that it does, have enough buyers to keep it around. Because I think, again, we got to keep the competition around, not just the best players. I think, competition is what drives everyone to be better. And that's why I think largely the Supra has a manual. It's because they heard that the Z would have a manual. And, if the Z never had a manual, Supra might not have ever offered it, So maybe they would have always planned on doing it. Maybe that's something in the pipeline, always, for Toyota. But I don't know. I think competition is just very, very important. So it's important to have, lots of choices out there. And also because not everyone likes the same thing, and I think it's important to give people those choices so that everyone can, enjoy what they like. And Tu Chang says, Matt just took my roast and turned it positive. I'm out. Always try and stay positive. Thank you so much for joining, Tu Chang. And we got another 25 minutes or so here. We'll go on this live stream, and then we'll call it quits. C. Fisher says, Matt, in your opinion, what is the smarter buy, an old Gen WX STI or a new Gen WX? Um, again, that kind of comes down to what you prefer from a safety standpoint, tech standpoint, how much you plan to modify it and stuff. And also fuel economy is a little bit better with the FA20, at least from the last Gen WX versus the STIs of that old EJ. So, it's going to come down to, again, what do you prefer? Personally, as much as I don't love, the back end styling on the WX, that's another car that I've kind of gotten used to the styling a little bit. If it were my money spending, I don't know. It'd either be a toss up between the newest WX and the latest generation STI. I actually saw an STI of that generation, this most recent one, just a couple of days ago again, and it just did an acceleration, had a nice exhaust on it, and I just was reminded, like, I still love that sound of that, that classic EJ sound and the look of them and stuff. So I think if you want something a little more comfortable, go for the newest WX. Otherwise, if you want something special, I would say get the most recent generation here of the STI. Also, because they're going to be collectible now, that's probably the last STI, at least the last gas-powered STI. I think that car is going to continue to be more and more special as the years go on now, since it was the last one. So I would probably say go for a 2021 STI if you could. That would probably be my recommendation. But as far as a smarter buy goes, that's going to come down to what you're needing and what fits your life the best. It's MZN is asking what my age is. I'm 32. And people are saying the Z pricing is too high. And Dom says, by the way, I should have been more specific. It shouldn't be called Bullet, just the same look. I agree with respecting the heritage. That seems to have gone out the window with naming vehicles. Well, that's certainly true. Obviously, the Maki is one of the biggest offenders of that. But yeah, it would be cool if they did some type of dark green for sure. And I think, honestly, because Beth loves dark green cars as well. That's what her C-Class was. So I think if they would have offered a dark green on the Maki, we totally would have gone for it. Unfortunately, they just don't have very many cool colors with the Maki, aside from the bright stuff, like the Grabber Blue and the Cyber Orange and stuff. Stanley says, why didn't you wait for the Blazer EV? A bunch of different reasons. First off, I didn't even know any of the details about the Blazer EV until our Maki was basically almost at the dealership. Also, the Blazer EV is not coming until next year at the earliest. We needed a car now. Beth, actually, her lease had ended at the end of June, so we were without a car for a month. So she was driving press vehicles for the past month until the Maki showed up. So we didn't have the luxury of waiting. Also, I think that I obviously I'd have to drive the Blazer EV first to make sure it actually is as good as it sounds. Personally, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years, but if we were looking to upgrade to another EV down the road, we wanted something similar but not the Mach-E. Blazer EV is definitely a contender in my mind. I think that they improved on some of the key lackings of the Mach-E, like having a shade on the sunroof. And the Blazer is really nice. Having cooled seats is really nice because the Mach-E doesn't have that either. But we'd lose out on the frunk. But I think they did some really good things. I'm very impressed with the new Blazer EV. And if it had been available to buy today, I might have, considered bailing on the Mach-E order if Beth had, been up for it too. I totally would consider it for sure. I think they're awesome. So we'll have to see. Corvette fan says, what do you think of the Hyundai Tucson? My sister's getting her white 2022 Tucson SEL with a convenience package on Wednesday night. Well, congrats to her. That's awesome. I think the new Tucsons are great, actually. I had a plug-in hybrid version of the Tucson just last week, and that was really nice. You'll see the review on that this week. I'll be posting it up. And I think the Tucsons are really nice. I think it's a really great alternative to the RAV4s and the CRVs and stuff. And I think it's better than the RAV4 and CRV in some ways as well. And so, yeah, I really like the Tucsons in general. And I actually have a friend that's just buying one as well. They just got the hybrid as well. So they're excited about it as well. So, Tucsons are great. So congrats to her. Luco, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, my brother had a 96 Mustang Cobra with a competition clutch. Driving that thing for 10 minutes was a week worth of leg workouts. Yeah. Oh man. There's especially even I did the Fox Body Mustang review several years ago. And even that was like a leg workout and a half. And then there's SN97s were definitely not any lighter. I don't think with the clutches on those either. So yeah, those things are a little bit more work to drive for sure. The newer cars, like my Bullet's definitely lighter for the clutch, but it also is a little bit weird, with the clutch on Mustangs. They've never been very easy. I think the easiest clutch in a Mustang that I've experienced is probably the S197 generation. Those were about as easy as I think it got. But otherwise, yeah, they're definitely tricky. And never driven a 96 Mustang Cobra though. I'm sure it's awesome. David says, did the G86 autocross warranty incident cost Toyota and Subaru the trust of the enthusiast community? I think it had a potential to, but I don't know if you saw the recent update that Toyota did ultimately decide to cover the warranty on that guy's engine. So I think they saved face a little bit there. Now I hope that it doesn't take a media frenzy to get them to cover every single engine failure on the G86, especially if it's been autocrossed. But yeah, I think that certainly gives people some pause because they're like, wait a minute, like this was supposed to be this enthusiast vehicle that you're giving us, free track day in when we purchased it and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was another one of these instances where the dealership and their decisions ruins what the, corporate, leaders are trying to accomplish and undermines their work. Because everyone that I know within Toyota PR would probably have looked at that and been like, duh, cover it. But it took going up the food chain for that to happen because unfortunately, at the dealership level or even at the, lower corporate level, it's all about just saving a buck and trying to deny every single thing you possibly can. And so, there was just this mismatch there. And unfortunately, it meant that, there had to be a big fuss in order to get someone's, warranty honored. But hopefully there will be some type of memo put out to Toyota dealers like, hey, like, you need to actually inspect these engines and see what the problem was before you just go and, write it off because it was in an autocross event or something like that. I hope that, there's some reckoning at the dealer level to, reassure people that, hey, this isn't going to be everyone's experience if your engine blows up. But we'll have to see. I don't know in general how Toyota and Subaru are as far as warranty. I know Subaru certainly is used to denying warranty claims on blown motors because, I'm sure you even breathe on an EJ motor and it starts having issues, you're going to have people that are, doing warranty claims and they get denied immediately because, you're doing stuff that's voiding the warranty. But I think with Toyota, they're not used to denying stuff as much because usually they don't have as many warranty claims, hopefully, but yeah, I hope that didn't hurt the GR86's momentum too much because it seems like they were really on a hot streak with the hype around that car, and I hope that continues because it's still a great car and the whole car shouldn't suffer because of one dealer denying a warranty claim, and then eventually getting it honored, So hopefully that whole thing blows over okay. Zuno says, love your channel, brother. Been watching since the WX days. I really appreciate that. He says, life gets busy and I lose my vehicle passion. Then I go back to your channel and your reactions bring me back in. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully you have a vehicle as well that, keeps the passion alive for you too. Yeah, I'm glad to do that for you. And hopefully you're continuing to enjoy the videos here. And I totally understand about life getting busy though. It's been a whirlwind, especially ever since our daughter was born. It's life goes by a lot faster, and it's definitely crazy trying to keep up with stuff. And Joey Fowler says, any suggestions on a fun used luxury sports sedan around the 30 grand mark? So, I think again TLX is a great choice. I also think IS350 is a great choice. I also think the Cadillac ATS and CTS are great. You can probably get one even well under 30, but you can get a very nice one for 30. I think both of those are some of the best handling sedans out there and really underappreciated. I think they never got the credit they deserved in a lot of ways for whatever reason. But I think the Cadillacs are certainly worth checking out because I think they both drive better than the Lexus and the Acura. Drive better than an Infiniti Q50, but that's another solid choice. And the German stuff, I'm always leery of used German vehicles just because they just tend to have more maintenance costs and more unreliability than the import stuff does. So I don't think I'd personally recommend some kind of old 3 Series or old A4 or Anything like that, old C-Class either, I wouldn't recommend. So I would probably stick to the import stuff if you're going to look for something used personally. But again, everyone has different risk tolerances. So, if you're okay with a little unreliability, then maybe, a 3 Series, which drives great, by the way, going for a used 3 Series might be worth it to you too. So, I think everything's on the table. I think they're all really good in their own ways. I just think the A4 is a little bland, so I don't think that's super exciting. C-Class is good, but I think the 3 Series is better from a handling standpoint personally. And then, I think the 3 Series also handles better than the Acura and the Lexus, but I still think Cadillac is better than all of them, in my opinion. So that would probably be the way I would go personally. But hopefully that helps you out a little bit. There's lots of choices. And again, feel free to send me a message on Facebook if you want to give me some more context on what exactly you're looking for and stuff. I'd be more than happy to help you try and find something that you enjoy. Luca, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, sorry, this is random, but are you an only child? Nope, I have a sister that's actually 7 years younger than me, but we were always still really, really close. And so, yeah, she's the only other sibling I have, though. It's just me and her. Other questions here. Sharon's asking about the Cadillac Lyriq. I'm hoping to get one as a press vehicle down the road. I didn't go on the launch because I didn't think enough people would watch the video, so I did get invited on that, but I chose not to go on that one. But I'm curious to check out the Lyriq, so I'll probably get one as a press vehicle at some point. I don't know if it'll be super soon, but I probably will review one eventually. But it seems promising. It just seems kind of pricey. That's the only thing about it that's a little iffy to me. But I really have to, test out the all-wheel drive version, especially because I think that's going to be the one that people actually want to buy in good numbers. So once that arrives, maybe I'll go on the launch for that if they do a separate launch. But the Lyriq, I think it looks great, though. It has some great tech in it and seems to be pretty promising, though, otherwise. John GXP says, hey, Matt, how do you feel about the new 2023 Cadillac Lyriq all-wheel drive? We'll have 500 horsepower. So, yeah, another question there about the Lyriq. So you probably just heard my response to Sharon as well. But, I'm very curious to try out the Lyriq. I don't know how many people watch it on here, so that's why I've been iffy about doing a review on it. But I personally think it's cool. I love everything Cadillac's doing recently. I think they are just knocking everything out of the park. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty promising. And, yeah, 500 horsepower should be plenty of fun with the all-wheel drive version. And since the GV60 review from this week seems to be doing okay views-wise, I might consider venturing into the electric luxury stuff a little bit more. And the Lyriq would, again, be kind of a close competitor to the GV60. So it'd be worth doing for sure. We'll see if the GV60 video continues to do well, then that could further enforce me to go for the the Lyriq and other stuff like that. And Justin's asking, do you and Beth plan on having any more kids? We're still up in the air about that. We're really just enjoying the first one, and we love her so much. She's just perfect in our eyes. And right now it's like, we're totally happy. We originally had thought that we'd like to have two, but we're, now we're just like, we're happy with her. And, we might just stick with just having the one, so there's certainly, we've heard from all of our family members and from lots of friends about, the pros and cons of having both. And we talk about it a lot and stuff, but, we haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking, we may just stick with one because we're just loving life right now with her. She's just the absolute best. So hasn't been determined yet, but may just stick to one. We'll see. And Goth is saying, hey, Matt, how is your sister's Mazda CX-5 doing? They're a great choice for a nice size SUV, very reliable, great styling. Mazda has a lot coming. Yeah, she loves it so far. She's really enjoyed it. She had a Mazda 3 previously with the 2.5-liter motor in it. So she does notice that the CX-5 isn't quite as fast. She can't merge quite as easily as she could in the Mazda 3. But she wanted something up. She wanted to sit up higher, just like everyone else, does. And she wanted a little bit more space. And so for her, it's perfect. She really loves it, and it's doing great so far. So I still think the CX-5 is one of the best compact SUVs out there. They're super reliable, super nice inside, very great driving vehicles. It has a nice normal automatic, has a good solid engine in it. As long as you can deal with the controller wheel, which isn't a problem for her, I think it's great. So Bert's also asking opinions on the Celestiq. I think it's a high-risk, high-reward venture. I don't think of Cadillac as a boutique coach builder, so to speak. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Celestic does. I mean, I think it looks good. If you watch my weekly update on it, you'll know that I wish they would have done something more unique with the styling, though. I think, if you're trying to sell something that's that high end, it cannot share a single thing with anything that's cheaper, in my opinion. And obviously, the inside is totally unique, but the outside having the front end that's very similar to the Lyric, I don't know how that's going to go over for people, because especially when you're talking about that price point, those people, when you're spending that much money, you want something that stands out. You want something distinctive. You don't want it to look like anything else that could even remotely look cheaper than what you have. It's that, I mean, this is why Bentley doesn't make a $60,000 compact crossover. This is why Rolls-Royce doesn't make anything cheap. Those vehicles have the, appeal and the prestige that they do because there is no cheaper alternative. There is nothing you can get that is as nice as a Rolls Royce. There is no cheaper Rolls Royce. There's just that level to them, and they've also done a good job of differentiating them. Like, for example, yes, the new Ghost, or the Ghosts, have always been based on the 7 series, but there isn't hardly anything shared with the 7 series. It's totally unique in every single way, and there's no styling that shares with the two or anything like that. And I think that's the very important thing. I think they should have just made that front end completely different, like totally different. I don't know if they should have gone retro with it or what direction they should have gone with, but I just think it shouldn't have been the same as the Lyric. And if they wanted to do the Celestic and have that styling, that's fine, but then make the Lyric something different, make it look totally different. And so I think that's Cadillac's biggest problem. I think the only way Cadillac could truly fully achieve the same boutique coach builder status as a Rolls-Royce or Bentley is if they killed the entire rest of the lineup. Like, sell only the Celestic and maybe the Escalade. That's it. And then anything under 100 grand, discontinue. That would be the only way Cadillac could truly achieve, I think, what they're trying to achieve. Aside from that, you're going to have obviously the people who just love Cadillac, the American car fans that are just like, well, I'm buying a Celestic because it's not a foreign brand or something like that. Those people will be like, sweet, I can spend 300 grand on something that's built in Michigan. Awesome. But there's not a lot of those people around anymore. And I just, I think it's, I mean, if they're only building a couple hundred every year, though, I mean, that might be enough, and they might be totally fine. They can sell it to a couple hundred very rich, Cadillac fans, and they're good, and that's fine. But if they're actually trying to go for world prestige and the standard of the world thing, it's just, you can't do that the way they used to do it back then. It's a different world, and it's a world where exclusivity is everything, and making, having cheaper entry points works against them. I think so. That's my thoughts on the Celestic. I hope it does well. I think the one key differentiator for that car will be Ultra Cruise, and Ultra Cruise might be enough to pull someone out of their Bentley, just because if they don't have to drive anymore, that might be worth sacrificing that brand prestige, especially, if it gets a good amount of publicity around it, and it gets some kind of prestige as far as influencers or people that are buying it that raise its just its prestige and its appearance to everyone. But I think outside of that, it's going to be a very uphill battle for Cadillac with the Celestic. Jonathan says, hey Matt, what are your thoughts on a vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to home power given the recent electric car purchase? I think that both are awesome. Obviously, the Maki does neither, so unfortunately, I'm not able to enjoy any of those perks like I would with a Lightning or with some of the Hyundai and Kia stuff that does the vehicle-to-vehicle stuff. But I think it's all very promising and very cool stuff. And I think it'd be awesome if like a next-gen Maki would be able to do the same thing as the Lightning. It'd be very nice because we do actually have our fair share of power outages here, and where we're at here. So it's not as bad this year, but last year we had like a lot of power outages. So we were definitely like, whenever they announced the Lightning last year and they're like, it can be a backup, thing for your house. We're like, oh, that would be nice to have, but we could never even fit an F-150 in our garage, let alone, justify driving around in a pickup truck just for that feature. But I think it's, really cool that they offer those two things. I think those are kinds of the things that, might win over a few other people, especially the home powering part, to make these things a little more utilitarian than just being a cool, thing to have that, gets you from point A to point B, and actually make them a little more useful. I think it's a great idea. Max says, would you trade in the Bullet if you could secure a Type R or GR Corolla for sticker? No, I don't need four doors now that we have the Maki, especially. But we always have that family car for those duties of carrying around the baby. So I like having a two-door rear-wheel drive, vehicle. So for me, I don't have any appeal for personally owning a Type R or a GR Corolla. I think they're awesome. And if I needed something that was a one car that does everything kind of car, I'd probably go GR Corolla because having that all drive would be nice. The Type R would be great too because you have more space in that, and they're also just super good to drive typically. So, but no, neither is going to replace the Bullet. That's for sure, unless for some reason I end up needing to have a four-door car. But even the Bullet, I can put the baby in the back just fine. It's a tight squeeze, it's a little bit of a pain. But once she's in a forward-facing car seat here, in a year or so, hopefully I'll be able to take her for rides in the Bullet a little bit, because she has not yet ridden in the Bullet, but hopefully sometime soon here she can. And Bert says he completely agrees about the Celestic and all that. Yeah, and Dodge fan says, what do you think of the new Grand Wagoneers featuring including the cooled and massaging seats? Do you think the Yukon Denali should have those features too? 100% the Yukon Denali should. I think the Yukon definitely does have cooled seats. I just don't know about the massage thing. But the Grand Wagoneers are great. I did a video on the Grand Wagoneer. You can definitely check that out if you want to hear all my thoughts on that and the regular Wagoneer. Beth and I did a full interior review on the Wagoneer as well. So definitely watch those if you're curious. But other than that, I think the Grand Wagoneers are really nice. I think it's a great, again, extra option for those to give, a little bit more competition to the Escalade and the Navigator. I think that personally, I still prefer the Escalade over the Grand Wagoneer, but I think that's great to have, again, more choices for people out there. So, and Goth Rocker says, never get rid of the Bullet. Yeah, I don't plan to. I plan to keep it as long as I can because I do love that thing, and I'm glad so many of you do as well. But yeah, so anyway, we're about here at the end of our 2 hours. So I just want to thank you all for joining here on the live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you have a good rest of your weekend here. And I just want to thank you all again so much for your support of the channel and for liking and commenting on all the videos, and just for joining in the super chat here, and just for all your support. I know you have a lot of really good options for car reviews and all that these days. So every day that goes by, I'm more and more appreciative of all your support, and it means the world to me because again, these we'll see how long we can all keep these car review channels going, but it's a dream, and it's a dream I hope never ends. So that's all thanks to you guys and your support. So anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned for my video on the Maki purchasing experience here, hopefully going live tomorrow or possibly Tuesday, and then also video on the Tucson. And again, lots of exciting stuff here coming up in the next few weeks and the next month or two. So stay tuned for all that. But thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.